Hello, welcome to the weekly wind-up with myself, Emma Kirke. My guest today is Stuart Hawkes, and he's the men's engagement worker at Clear. Now, mental health could possibly be considered a trending topic, and men's mental health considered in many avenues, but there still seems to be some shortfalls in outcomes. Stuart's here today to discuss this and what strategies he's putting in place to try and change this. Welcome to the show. Now, the first question, what does CLEAR stand for?
CLEAR is it's Community Links Engagement and Recovery Service. So we're part of a larger organisation based in Kirklees. We offer an individual service for people either to recovery, either through group-based activities or individual programmes that are going to benefit them in their own recovery.
Is it funded by Kirklees?
It's funded through various bits, but mostly through the NHS.
Okay. And this is, I understand this is quite an innovative kind of formula that you have. Can you tell me about it?
Sure. I've been in post about 3 months now, and my background is in theatre. It's in making theatre with people that wouldn't ordinarily get on stage, and it's been very much about giving people a voice. So in the past I've worked with young people that have been involved in the care system, I've worked with young parents, I've worked with those people who normally would be in receipt of services but not have a voice about how those services might be delivered.
Okay.
So I saw this post advertised and they wanted somebody to work with men creatively, and I thought, well, I can do that. So I came into post, and I suppose the first thing was that I'm not an expert in mental health, so I needed to find out what services were out there for men, how they responded to those services and what they needed. So I went out and spoke to men.
Did you have any experience yourself with family or friends that had mental health issues?
I do. My son's got has got autism, and so I suppose I've got a caring responsibility there. And I lost my mum recently through dementia, so she had Alzheimer's. So yeah, we've been touched, I suppose, by mental health issues in the family. Yeah.
Have you ever had any kind of like depression, anxiety issues yourself?
Well, only about work. So not that I'm aware of. I suppose the thing is that for most of us, I think for men, it's not something you really think about. I think I've become more aware of my own mental health while I've been doing this job than I have been previously. So you recognise, I think, traits that I'm in control of, but for some people they're not able to control those things. So that anxiety becomes overwhelming, and that the depression can become overwhelming as well.
So you've obviously talked to a lot of different people.
Yeah.
Did you find out why there's a poorer outcome for men?
I've spent time with all the different men's groups across Kirklees, really. So I've been to the Basement Project, I've been to Platform One, and we run our own services through Clear. We run a couple of men's engagement groups through their peer support groups. And I've read various bits when I came into post as well. There's been reports from the Samaritans. Yeah. I think the thing about men and they have worse outcomes for women, I think partly because they don't take up the services in the same way that women do. Okay. So men will not necessarily talk to anybody about the problems, and then things start to spiral for them. So there are certain triggers, whether that's breakdowns of relationship, breakdown of or losing employment, particularly middle age, can lead men to kind of losing their way in terms of losing sight of who they are and kind of a reason for being, and then men tend to undertake more destructive behaviours. So they might start drinking more, they might take less care of themselves, and ultimately that kind of can spiral out of control for some men as well. And the lack of speaking about this is a major problem, really.
So you've identified that there are barriers that they're putting in place almost themselves. Yeah. How do you go about trying to break those barriers down?
Men's talk is partly about that, and talking to the men, all the men that are currently engaged in service obviously have had to acknowledge for themselves that they've got an issue, and that's kind of the key moment. Once they accept or once they acknowledge for themselves that there's a problem, then they can do something about it. So all of the men that we're working with to a degree are in recovery. While some may never fully recover from the situation that they're in a situation where they're able to reflect on the journey that they've been on and start to look towards the future, I suppose.
How do they arrive at your door? Is it referable?
Clear's a self-referral service, so they might come through a GP or they might self-refer. So they would simply have an interview and look at what it was that they were looking to get out of the service, and then they'd be taken on from there. Our service has got a 2-year limit as part of the funding for how long people can be worked with. So after that 2 years, we look for suitable routes for people to take whether that's about continued recovery or further steps to kind of get the lives back on track.
So is it a very personalised sort of system?
That's a very personalised service. I would say with men's talks, I would say the men that are in that situation are very keen that other men recognise the situation that they're in and are able to talk and share their feelings. It's quite bizarre. I'm talking to the men and who are quite open because they're in a safe environment where they're talking, and I say to them, well, who else do you tell about the problems that you've got? No one. They, even though they're willing to talk within those groups, they don't discuss that. And when you ask why, it's to do with stigma. And as men, we're supposed to keep stiff upper lip. We're supposed to knuckle down, get on with it. So whether it's seen as a sign of weakness or whatever else, there is an unwillingness of men, and the men themselves don't feel that the conversation they would have with other men would necessarily be well received.
Do you think then, because the Yorkshire stiff upper lip is then amplifying the problem? So men in Yorkshire are even at more of a disadvantage?
I don't know. I've no scientific data to back that up, but it may well be the case.
Yeah. Because that is traditionally around, in the area that we're in, isn't it? That's how you are perceived. Yeah. So
I mean, there was a recent report by the Samaritans which was about social class and suicide. And in that report they were saying that you're 10 times more likely as a working class man to commit suicide. We don't talk whether other men have more confidence or able to find that help for themselves or feel more comfortable talking to their own peers. I don't know, but certainly for working class men the outcomes are not as good as they might be.
So what services is it just the men's talk that's available, or are there other things?
There are lots of services out there available for men. Again, it's about them being able to find them.
Yeah.
Men's talk differs because what we're looking to do is enable men to have a voice about the services that they're in receipt of, and we're going to do that by making a piece of theatre. So when I proposed this to men, I got a few strange looks. Nobody ran away. And I kept going, I kept asking, and at the moment I've got 20 men signed up and taking part on a weekly basis doing theatre workshops with me.
Wow.
Which I've got to say has been fantastic. We had one lad that I was talking to, I didn't really know him that well, I don't know any of them that well. They sign up and I don't know anything about them really other than the fact that they've referred to the project. And at the first tea break I checked he was okay, and he said, oh, my face is hurting. What was that? He said, from laughing so much. And I thought, well, that's fantastic. If they're coming along and they're having a good time and they're smiling and having fun while they're doing it, then that's great. And I appreciate it takes them out of the comfort zone. It's something they've never done before, but ultimately the whole process, I'm hoping, is going to be empowering for them and enable them to have a voice to the people that provide the services that they're in receipt of. And also to other men as well. They want the audience. The key measure of success in this project will be who the audience is for it. So if we can put audience together of men as well, then that will be fantastic.
Yeah. Can you see this being rolled out throughout the UK?
I would hope so. I mean, it's interesting because I've worked with different sectors doing this kind of work, but not in mental health before. So I've had people saying this is really innovative, and to me it's not. To me it's what I do. But in this context and working specifically with men around mental health issues, I suppose it is kind of it's all fairly new. So they're taking a risk. I've got to say the organisation have been fantastic with me, because I came in and said what I was going to do, and they've just left me to get on with it, and they just let me do my thing, which has been great, really.
Do you think? Do you think that's because they are struggling to find ways to get men to open up, and this is just totally from left field?
I think you could. I think there might be a point there. Yeah. So it's about offering different sorts of service. I think what I've found as well is that unless you're targeting things specifically at men, they don't necessarily think they're for them.
Right.
So if you're putting out a general call, this is available, unless it's targeted specifically at men, they tend not to turn up. So the majority of the majority of people that are making the most or benefiting from those mental health services are women, because they're more likely to take up the service.
So if I have a friend who is male who I think would benefit from coming to you, how would I put them in touch?
You can get on the phone, you can go on the website, you would simply just ring up, make an appointment, and they would come in for an interview, and that would be the start of the process.
That's fabulous. Thank you very much for coming and sharing that. I Wish I was a bloke so I could come to your theatre production.
And if you were, you'd be very welcome.
Thank you very much. If you wish to discuss this or any other topic you see on KLTV, our social media and contact details are on the screen. Thank you for watching. I'm Emma Kirke. Goodbye for now.